Welcome to the Real Mama Pod.
I'm your host, Devin.
And I'm your host, Kendra.
We are real moms.
Sharing real experiences. The things people don't tell you.
Hey, mama, hey. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm maintaining. Again, it's one of those days.
Just
It is a
maintaining?
maintaining type of day, yes.
Look, I hear you 100%.
Type of day.
Right. If this is your first time listening, I'm your host, Devin.
And I'm your host, Kendra. Welcome to the Real Mama
Welcome
Pod.
to the Real Mama Pod. Yes. So, like I was saying, we have a guest today, and I'm excited.
Hi, Carmen. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Are you
So,
maintaining too?
Carmen.
Yes, big time in maintaining. Yes.
So Carmen's a rattler. We met Carmen at FAMU
Hey.
eons ago, but we're not going to give you a year because that would age us, right? And we just talked about how we're trying to remain youthful and get rid of these gray hairs and all this stuff. So we won't give you the years, but just know she's a rattler. We went to school with her and we are active with each other on social media. We haven't seen each other in years, but you know, with social media, it kind of helps you feel like you know what's going on in people's lives. So we thought it'd be great to have Carmen on because she does have a daughter who is deaf. And she's going to educate us on that and her journey and how that's going for her and her family. And just kind of catch up with us as well. So welcome to the show, Carmen.
Welcome, Carmen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Why did I say thanks for having us? Girl, I'm losing my mind.
Maintaining type of day.
Maybe I'm maintaining too.
So, Carmen, can you briefly tell us about your journey to mamahood?
Well, briefly, it originally started, I was stepmom before I was actual mom.
Mhm.
So I was stepmom for a couple of years until I had my first daughter, who's now 6. And then 2 years later, I had my second daughter, who's now 4. Um, so that's how I became a mom.
So you were introduced to being a mama as a stepmother.
Yes,
All
totally
right.
different perspective. It's totally two different things. Mom is
Yeah.
mom. It's becoming stepmom first. Stepmom was a different, seeing motherhood from a different light.
hmm
And then becoming and actually having a child is like so different. A lot of responsibility, a lot of burden, I feel. Um,
Hmm.
but it's a joy.
Yeah.
How old was your stepdaughter when you were, I guess, whenever you became a stepmama?
So she was 4 going
hmm
turning 5.
Wow. Okay. So do you feel like that prepared you for motherhood?
It did. I think so, but in my mind, and people who have known me for like such a long time, they're just like, motherhood is for you, girl. So I always, I always was a mom, and I have a younger brother who's 10 years younger, so
Okay.
it's like my baby.
hmm
So when she came into the picture, I was like, I don't know what to do. I
Right.
don't know what to do. So, but yeah, she did, especially when it came to education, as far as because she
hmm
was, going to start school, and me seeing that, and I love education, so children's
hmm
education. So it gave me a real eye opener to how to do this thing for real.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Devin mentioned, Carmen, that your youngest daughter is deaf. How did you all discover that she was deaf? And did the doctors give you any information on what caused her to be deaf? Like, how was that? How were you all introduced to her, I guess, diagnosis?
Well, when we're in the hospital, they do that hearing test.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was born about a month early. So I had her at 36 weeks, and they were doing the test, but she wasn't passing the test. But they're just like, oh, it just could be fluids because, she did come a little early.
hmm
And they kept testing her. They tested her one more time. They discharged me, and they're like, oh, well, you're going to have to come back and do another test. And about maybe after the third test, they were like, yeah, you need to go to an audiologist and see, well, to get a more in-depth test. And It wasn't really until about, mind you, when I had her and she failed, in my head I really like, okay, we gotta do something. But
Mhm.
it wasn't until she was really 6 months, then they're just like, you know what? This is not fluids. This is something a little bit more. And when around that time is when, they're just like, okay, well, you need to go see another audiologist, you need to go see an ENT, you need to go see all these different things. So I knew when she didn't pass the first time, what the situation was. And eventually you do genetic testing, but it really didn't tell us anything. It kind of just gave us more things that have to do with nothing about hearing.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I don't want to see that. Thanks. But it didn't really give us anything. And we don't, as far as we know, we don't have any uh, deaf family members. So for us, this is the first, So
Okay. And so before we get further into Q&A, I know we talked about the proper terms to identify a person who's deaf or hard of hearing, or some people may say hearing impaired. Can you educate us on that?
yeah. So from what I've learned, well, in hearing, you have different types of hearing.
Hmm.
My daughter has severe profound hearing. So you have mild, moderate, severe, profound. So you can be in the middle, you could be spot on into one. Because it's so far off, hers is towards the end, like severe, profound. Like if she does not have her device, she can't hear me. So she is deaf. She cannot hear, like maybe she hear like a jet passing by. Mild is like maybe you have to speak up a little bit louder and somebody can hear you. Um, so people normally identify differently. They
Hmm.
identify how they feel. For my daughter, she's deaf until she tells me that she wants to do something, says something different. But hard of hearing is usually for people who maybe have hearing aids and they are just it's a little bit harder for them to hear.
Hmm.
Deaf people usually either have cochlear implants or they don't wear any devices. Some
Hmm.
people choose not to wear anything and um being like having hearing impaired, some people use it, some people don't. Some people don't like it because they feel that nothing's broken, even though they
Right.
can't hear, they don't feel like their hearing is broken. They
Mm.
just communicate, whether it's sign or lip reading or something like that. So it depends on who you talk to, but it's good to know what it is because there are people who don't consider themselves deaf. They're like, I'm
Hmm.
not deaf at all. I'm hearing just fine.
Right.
And they have implants. So it just really just depends, but it's good to know the terms.
Carmen, how did or when you and your husband found out that your daughter was deaf, like how did that make you all feel? Particularly you as a mama, like how did that make you feel?
Well, we were sad because first of all, when I had my daughter, I'm like, hey, did I do something wrong during my pregnancy?
Hmm.
Like I'm trying to go back. I'm like, there must have been a time that maybe I don't know. I took a Tylenol when I was supposed to. I was thinking back to all those times, like how, and then she came such a month early, and I'm just like, what did I do wrong
Hmm.
to make all these things happen? And now I don't think like that. But we were very sad because we didn't know what the future held. My girl can't hear. And if she doesn't have her device, like she's
Hmm.
walking and she's paying attention to everything but what she needs to pay attention to. So it's very difficult because you need that. Uh,
Hmm.
I think I take advantage of it because I can, but she's just like she's very carefree, but there's things going on around her that she doesn't see. So it was to us, to me, it was sad.
Hmm.
Hmm.
There was one time where I was in the kitchen and I had this glass jar where the rice is, and it fell, and she was like on her bouncy sleeping. It fell, cracked, broke everything. She was still sleeping. Like,
Hmm.
but like nothing happened. And I'm just like, man, this girl really can't hear. So it was sad for maybe like the first couple months, but I got over it. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, sad. Now let's what can we do
Hmm.
to bring her up to par?
Right.
What can we do to help?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So, as far as family, and culturally, and your family being supportive of you or not supportive of you? How have they shown up or not shown up for you?
Oof. Um, they they love my daughter. They love
Hmm.
her to death. But I feel like my as our family can do better as a whole because my daughter, even though she's very pitchy, she's loud, she babbles, she says few words here and
Hmm.
there. Her main language is ASL.
Hmm.
So a lot of times, because I guess taking on a new language is difficult, and especially with older people in our families, they're just like they'll just learn certain things, or they'll say, "Hey, Carmen, how do you sign this or how do you sign that?" Instead of going and saying, "You know what? Let me take this class." Like, and mind you, I tell them, I'm like, "There's a
Hmm.
class here, there's a
Right.
YouTube channel here, there's a this, there's a that that you can use."
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit difficult because they'll talk to her. She has an implant, but they're just like, oh, I was trying to talk to her and she didn't understand. Most of the times, if you sign it, she'll understand it better than
Hmm.
what you're telling her. So we use sign and talk at the same time, so we communicate with that. So it's some family they sign, but they sign like baby signs. And I'm
Hmm.
like, you guys have to learn more because
Mm-hmm.
she's at school and she's picking up 100 signs and 200 signs, and you guys can't communicate with her that well. Or
Hmm.
they depend a lot on me to do it. So it's a thing that we're still kind of working on.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
pray for us.
that was good.
Absolutely. And it sounds like it's a big it's a transition, right, for not only your extended family, but even within your household. Like you mentioned that you have a stepdaughter that's older, and you also have a 6-year-old daughter. And I guess that leads to the question of how do they communicate with your 4-year-old? Like, did they go through classes of learning ASL, or were there certain, I guess, things that you all had to put in place for them to kind of navigate this new way of communicating with their little sister?
Yeah, it's a little bit like hit or miss because of well, with my 6-year-old, she learns a lot because most of the time she's there. They don't go to the same school, but if we're going to a speech therapy or
Hmm.
if like over the summer, the aftercare that my youngest daughter goes to is also camp, and it's a deaf and hard of hearing camp, and they take
Mm.
siblings. So my 6-year-old was able to go, so she's able
Oh,
to pick
cool.
up on things at while she's there at the camp and things like that. As far as my oldest, she's not always here, so it's like 50 in the week.
Hmm.
And it's a little bit hard when they get to a certain age because it's like, hey, you can do this, but if she doesn't want to do it, she doesn't, sometimes she'll ask and say, hey, how do you sign this? How do you sign that? Um, but I think eventually experience and life will
Hmm.
teach us that we need to do a little bit better when it comes to communicating with Anna, my youngest daughter.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
So
it's all
speak,
rules.
yeah, speaking of sign language, what avenues did you take to educate yourself? How did you learn? I know you talked about your daughters and how they went to camp, and you're encouraging your other oldest daughter to learn. What avenues did you and your husband take?
Well, the original, I guess this is a thing where the state has to know that your child is deaf or hard of hearing.
Okay.
So they eventually people start reaching out, different organizations, and so there's like the Florida School of the Deaf and Blind, and then there's a parent infant program that they have, and they give you like a ASL if you express that you want to learn ASL. They give you an
Hmm.
ASL mentor
Okay.
till the age of 6.
Oh,
And,
wow.
um, and then I just started looking through YouTube. Their Gallaudet University, which is a deaf university in DC, they have classes for us. I took as many classes as I could take. I was taking them.
Okay.
And now they have like this thing here in Lauderhill that it's a deaf cafe. So they host it once a month, and it's literally there's interpreters, there's students of deaf students and students that are learning ASL like in high school or in college, and you go and you just practice. You
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
practice and you mingle with the deaf community, and then you start to learn a little bit about, and then it's so small because an interpreter here is somebody you might see that person on TV because the deaf community is so small. So you just pick up things here and there, and then you learn and you get to meet people. And but YouTube has been my biggest thing. And then eventually when she went off to school, they they have been so great to us that most of the time they're sending me resources, and I'm like, I already have these stuff, man. We're just so it's awesome. It's awesome. The community's so small. It's just you just learn that way.
It's good that you have a solid community, and although your community is strong and you all have found these local resources, do you find yourself having to advocate for your daughter because she is deaf in any space?
Yeah, because it comes down to like just normal like communication, like just normal communication. Like I'm more aware now when I'm talking to people, like looking at them looking at me, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes she's saying something and it might be bye, but it's like I don't know, it's kids, so I'm like, hey, she's saying bye to you, acknowledge her.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like acknowledge her. But I have to advocate for her just to make sure that she's getting what she needs. Because because even still trying to figure out how her cochlear implants work. Just because she has them doesn't mean that automatically she can hear. They adjust it every couple months, and the frequencies and the decibels and this and that is different. So she might be able to hear the S sound, but that P sound she can't hear. So I have to. People just think, oh, she has them, she can hear. Doesn't work that way. You really, and so she's depending a lot on lip reading. She's depending a lot on people signing. Um, so. So yeah, she's had a pretty good journey. I haven't had to really fight anybody about anything, but I do, if I sense something, I do say, hey, no, you need to, acknowledge her or talk to her, she's a person kind of thing.
Mhm.
Even though
Mm-hmm.
she's four, so, for the most part, I haven't had anything crazy. It's just the only thing that's different is maybe this. I can't put her in any school.
Mhm.
So when she started preschool, when she turned 3, she was supposed to go to preschool. So the school is an elementary school, but it has a preschool, I guess, cluster, and it's deaf and hard of hearing. So that is like probably like 30 minutes from here. I
Mm-hmm.
can't take her to my school, and I can't take her to a school across the street. So that was probably my biggest issue that I had to deal with because the school's so far.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. So
Mm-hmm.
does she enjoy school? Does she like school? Do they provide transportation for her? What does that look like for y'all?
She loves school.
Hmm.
They're great. She's had the same teacher for 3 years. So
Oh,
until she goes to BPK this year, so next
okay.
year it'll change. But they do provide transportation.
Okay.
But I can't, in my heart of heart, be like and when she started, she was 3.
Hmm.
Her on a bus, and mind you, they pick her up right in front of the house,
Hmm.
but it's 30 minutes out. And then
Hmm.
you always hear
Yeah.
those stories like on the news talking about so and so was dropped off at the wrong bus stop. My daughter can't talk.
Yeah.
So imagine. So
Mm-hmm.
we
Hmm.
drive since my 6-year-old, and now my 13-year-old, they're coming to school. Well, my 6-year-old's coming to school with me, but now we're all going to school, and then my husband takes my youngest daughter out, and then I pick her up. But it is 30 minutes
Hmm.
each way. But I mean, that's what she needs. That's what she needs. I can't.
Yeah. Anything for
Yeah.
your baby, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's real. That's real.
So you talked a little bit about, I guess, the dynamics of how you and your husband handle the responsibilities of making sure your daughter gets to school that's 30 minutes away and that you pick her up. But when you all found out that she was deaf, like how did that affect your relationship, your partnership? What did things look like for you all moving forward?
It's still a little bit difficult because most of the time he's not going to agree to this, but most of the time I'm the one who's doing like going to all the appointments and things like that. So when you're
Yeah.
going to all these appointments and the doctors are like, "Oh, this is what's going on. This is how you approach this." So when I come
Mm-hmm.
back home, like this is what the doctor said to do and how to approach it. And he's like, "No." Like even earlier today, we're having her. She was saying break it or trying to say break it because I had a
Hmm.
cookie. And he
Mm-hmm.
was like, don't look at her. Don't look at her and just say it. And I was like, why are you not going to look at her? You need to look at her so she can
Hmm.
see. So we still have these little debates here and there about how to go about certain things. But it's difficult because, especially now, because she's 4 and I remember when my 6 year old was 4, she had a
Hmm.
lot to say, a lot to do, and sometimes she's trying to express herself, especially if I'm not here, she's trying to express herself and
Mm-hmm.
nobody's understanding what she's doing, and she's like full blown tears. And I'm
Mm.
just like, and I'm just like, she has to be crying about something real in order for it
Right.
Mm-hmm.
to be happening. So we have that frustration, and I'm just like, we have to do better at finding out what she wants. I tell them like you can't like sometimes people talk to her, say something to her, and they're walking away. And
Mm.
she doesn't know what they're saying. They're already gone, like it's already turned, so she can't hear these things. And I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a little bit frustrating for me to watch that sometimes. But we do like, but we had butt heads on how to approach even getting the implant, the surgery, was like a I'm like, I know for a fact that this is what she needs. And he's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we're still gonna research. And I'm like, if we can't make our people learn sign language, like what makes you think like if we don't get this implant, like people are really gonna learn sign language?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's like we need this to because we're both hearing. We would love our daughter to hear like we
Hmm.
hear. That's not the case.
Right.
So, it's been struggles here and there because I know what's best, and I know he wants to do what's best for her. But what does it take to get there? And most of the time, it's coming from us. I think
Right.
from moms
Yeah.
because mom is like, okay, so
Yeah.
it's we're still learning. We just had that break it thing just today, so so
Parenting is an ongoing class. It's a classroom that's always full, and it is what it is. Like your
Yeah.
seat is never
mhm.
vacant. You are always a student in being a parent. So it's good that y'all have each other to navigate this new space because I
Mhm.
imagine it's still pretty fresh for your family, because your
Yeah.
daughter is still so young. But kudos to you all for figuring it out.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I love that. So, what does self-care look like for you guys? For you, for your husband, what does self-care look like for you?
A bath. It's so crazy, but we're really good about taking like he went to take probably a bath when this started, and I'm pretty sure he's still in there.
Okay.
Um, and it's just to wind down. It's
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
and we in there we like he likes to be on his phone. Sometimes I don't even want to have any light.
Hmm.
There's a TV in there if we want to watch TV or something like that.
Hmm.
And just not a lot of going out, but we do try to just be in the moment. So
Hmm.
if a bath is all we can have, the bath, we're gonna soak until, and
You're
especially when
wrinkled.
sleep, we go together. We're like, okay, let's go in the tub and just relax.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and
nothing like a good bath.
or yeah, for him it's like he'll have like a drink, like a little
Hmm.
I don't know, rum and coke or something like that. And for me, it's just just I like to sometimes if I can watch like a show or something that's
Hmm.
and I like to watch like old English stuff. So something that takes me somewhere else that's
Yeah.
not here. So so I don't have to think about all these things right now. But for
Yeah.
the most part we do. We're very good about our baths and just he's like, I just need to wind down with this drink. I'm like, okay. And then
Hmm.
just relaxing and just watching something nice, a comedy or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Something light.
Yeah,
Something light.
that we can do. Like it's doable. It's not like, oh, we got a plan for one Saturday out of the month. No, we can do that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, as we close out the conversation, Carmen, we want to give you space to offer any advice to a mama or family who may have a child who's deaf. What advice would you give to them?
Um, I mean, I would do you. We know our kids,
Hmm.
and in the deaf community, there's a lot of different avenues on how to get to where you're going. And honestly, I had to set aside myself. I want my daughter to hear. That's not going to happen. But I saw as she was growing, I saw her gestures and her expressions and how she expressed herself. And I was like, okay. And she wasn't saying like mama, dada,
Hmm.
typical milestones. She was signing these things. So I had to come to realization within myself and say, my daughter needs to learn some ASL because this
Hmm.
is how she communicates. So just being able to just watch your child and see how they pick up things. Some deaf children do not speak or have any sound. So you would think some people and some people like to force the speaking. Just really be vulnerable with yourself and
Hmm.
figure out what your child needs. And then after that, find your community. And there's so many resources out there, especially in bigger cities like where I live. There's so many resources, and the state provides a lot of different things for um, for you and your child. You just have to go out of your way, and a lot of times you're gonna go out of your way.
Hmm.
30 minutes,
Mhm.
an hour, but you got to do everything you can to help your child thrive. And
Yeah.
they're normal kids. They're super normal kids. They can do anything anybody else can do. It's just going to take them a little bit longer because we forget that we need these ears
Hmm.
to communicate.
Hmm.
So it's something that I think we take advantage as people.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Your child's not broken, but you can get through it. This is something very small because life brings a lot of different things. You just have to figure out what's your journey and what's your path,
Hmm.
and then go from there. Uh, but yeah, and just finding connecting with other moms and other families who have gone through the journey. I haven't met somebody who's like, no, I can't help you. I'm not going to help you.
Hmm.
Most of the time, we're here to help. So,
Hmm.
so yeah, I haven't found anybody who shoot me off. So,
Yeah.
Love your
mhm.
That,
perspective. Thank you, Carmen.
yeah, that was really good. So I do have one last follow-up question. So, do you speak Spanish as well?
I
You
do
speak
speak,
English and Spanish.
yes,
Now, when you're talking to your youngest, do you speak both languages to her as well as sign or just English?
just English.
Okay.
And
Okay.
people always, do the girls learn, Spanish? At one point in my life, I said I would love my girls to learn Spanish, but when
Mm-hmm.
I was hit with this curveball,
Mm-hmm.
ASL was the next language that we
Right.
all need to learn. So,
Yeah.
hmm.
Okay. That's good. I was just curious about that. Before we move on to Mama Juice, I just
Yes.
want to shout out our sponsors for the
Oh,
show.
absolutely.
So we've been working really hard to get some sponsors and we're getting sponsorships and this is so
Thank you.
exciting. So our first sponsor is SelfieSkin Co. And we've actually been wearing their, or excuse me, not wearing,
Wearing, using
using.
their products.
You see the glow? You see the glow? And so we're absolutely falling in love with this skincare line.
Absolutely.
So definitely give that a try. And then who's our next sponsor?
We also have North 24. We have some of them
Yeah.
displayed here. I don't know if you all can see. But North 24 is, or North 24th, excuse me, is a natural cleaning line.
Yeah.
And their products smell so good.
Yeah.
What we have here is the lavender and patchouli, like
All-purpose.
all purpose cleaning, and it smells so good,
And it works.
literally works.
Yeah.
So definitely give North 24th a try.
Yes. And SelfieSkin Co.
Yes.
We're
Oh,
glowing.
well, yes. You see that. You see that.
Yes.
Absolutely. We have a sponsor, which is Poise Wine. It's right here. We have a sweet, dry white wine, and we also have a sparkling rosé here.
So with all that talk, friend, what are we drinking for Mama's juice?
It sounds like we all need. I don't know. Now I'm thinking about a rum and coke. Carmen, you said your
I
husband likes
know.
rum and coke.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're drinking today. So this drink is called the Remix, and Devin actually came up with this name, and we talked through the context of it. And sometimes we have to remix the way we parent, right? And the way you parent depends on your child and their needs, right? So just learning about Carmen and her family's background, and then also seeing her other babies on social media, and just our personal experiences with, I mean, Devin has two kids that she has to navigate with how to parent. And while I only have one son, I have other children in my life that I sometimes serve as a parent figure too. And there are certain things that I have to do differently, right, with those children. So we have to remix a lot of the way that we do things. And this drink was inspired by all of that. And what it has is, I'm going to start with the cocktail version, and then I'll do the mocktail. So the cocktail version has 3 ounces of passion fruit juice, 1.5 ounces of gin, and half an ounce of lime juice, a fourth an ounce of simple syrup, and it's topped off with club soda. And if you want to add garnish, you can. You can use fruit. You can use mint. Y'all know I love mint. And then the mocktail version has the passion fruit juice, the lime juice, the simple syrup, and the club soda. And we call that drink the remix, because we got to
Love
remix
it.
it up sometimes, right? We
Love
do.
that. So the next segment we have is Mama's Corner, and this is my favorite segment. So this is our opportunity to connect with our guests further, or like one of our listeners may write in and ask us a question. But sometimes we are reflective, and I think this is a good one to be reflective with. So I do have an additional question for you, Carmen. And so I just want to know, you're very open on social media, which we love. What keeps you going? What keeps your smile so bright? Like you're always smiling. Like ever since I've known you, you've been like a very smiley person. But I think with motherhood, it added like a additional smile. I don't know. I don't know how your smile can get brighter than what it is, but you're always so positive, and I really love and admire that about you. So what keeps you going?
Girl, the Lord. Well, listen,
That'll do it.
I I would not be here if, and I am grateful for
Hmm.
every single breath I wake up and I say, thank you, Jesus, if
Hmm.
anything.
Hmm.
Um, and it's because I cling on to the promises that He has for me, and I believe it. And so, in through these trials and all these things that we've gone through, I just think about the stuff that gone through since early adulthood. And
Hmm.
I'm here and I'm breathing. I'm grateful because I've seen a lot of people go. And I'm just like, I know we've seen a lot of people go. And it's just like, man, that person was 35, 25, 30. And I'm grateful for the breath. That's it. Things are
Yeah.
hard. I don't think I'm always positive, but things do get hard. I do get sad. But I'm grateful. And I tell him, I tell God, I'm like, listen, remember me, have mercy on me, and just breathe on me. If
Hmm.
anything, I saw a friend post and she goes, sometimes, the prayer that you ask is just for breath. You don't, we ask for many different things like God help me through the situation, but sometimes we just need your breath to get
Mm.
through and maintain, through the day. So, honestly, it's just the Lord that helps. And having a good support system. I'm gonna give credit to my husband too. Uh, he he works hard, and he's tries to figure out stuff, and help me throughout the process as far as because he works all the time. He owns his own business, so he's like, okay, what can we do to help? How do we do this? So, but honestly, it's just the Lord and sometimes my husband.
Hey, both of those are great, right? We love the Lord and we love our husbands, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that was
So it
really
makes
good. That
sense,
was really
Carmen.
good.
Thank you.
hmm
So if
Oh, this
anyone
was
wants to,
great.
yeah, it was. And Carmen, if there's anyone that would, be interested in speaking with you about your experience and who may also share a similar story, how can they connect with you on social media, in any space?
Well, they can follow me. Got Manny's Ford. And then also I have a parent page for kids, like Florida kids that are deaf, and I put everything that I find I put on there because I don't
Okay.
want
Okay.
nobody to not know, and I share it on my page as well. I try my best to share it on my Facebook and sometimes on Instagram, but Instagram, it's only pictures and certain things, but I do share it on my page as much as I
Okay.
can, any resource, so people can, or message, and people can always
Yeah.
message me. I'm an
And
open book. I'm not.
is that a separate page from your personal page, or is it uh all on your personal page, the parent
It
page that you mentioned?
it's a separate page. I'm gonna go and tell you what it is.
No, it's okay. If you don't have it
Yeah,
now, we
we'll
can
put it
definitely
in the
put.
description
You know
box.
how many moms come on here and they don't know like their social media handle, so it's totally okay. We usually just put it in the description box.
Yeah, I try to keep it just for I put Florida.
Hmm.
There's one not because there's ones that are for like internationally, nationally, and things like that. But just for Florida, I tried my best to keep the resources for locally because
Hmm.
every state has something different
Right.
on where you can connect. So
Okay.
That's fair.
We'll make sure
Well,
we
we'll
share that
definitely
in the
get that
description.
from you later on, and we'll share it with our listeners. Well,
yeah,
Carmen, this was great. Thank you so much for your time. We know you're a busy mama and you have a lot going on, so we do appreciate you educating us about deafness and sharing your story with your about your daughter and your journey and your family. So, thank you for your time.
no
Thank you,
problem. Thank you so
Carmen.
much for having me. Thank you. I'm so excited.
All so much for joining us at the Real Mama Pod.
Yes, every Thursday night. Y'all could be anywhere.
But you're hanging out with us.
Yes, and we love it. So, friend, where can they find you?
They can find me anywhere they like. I'm on Instagram at KendraFerg_. And I'm also on Facebook, Kendra Ferguson. What
Okay.
about you?
And you can reach me at DevGrace_. Instagram, TikTok,
Pinterest,
Pinterest,
Twitter,
Facebook, Twitter,
mm-hmm.
all of that at the Real Mama
Pod.
Pod. Yeah, so make sure you follow us. If you want to learn more about Kendra and I, you can check out our website where we have Mama merch. Hey, you can see our little
All
sweatshirts.
right. We are wearing our mama
Yeah.
merch.
Yeah, we have sweatshirts, hats, necklaces. We also have Rich Auntie merch. So you can purchase that at
Dot.
www.therealmamapod.com.
Dot.
We're so corny.
I know.